We need to teach the children that sex is a gift from God, because when God tells Adam and Eve to multiply and subdue the earth, and likewise all the other creation, what is he referring to? The reproductive role of a man and a woman. Parents are to be the primary sex educators, whether we want it or not. The teachers at church, the teachers at school, they cannot take away the primary role of the parent in being the key sex educator for the children. What do we mean? You, the parent, you need to be able to handle these issues with your children. And you need to be on the lookout every now and then for how the sexuality of the children develops. We are going to talk about some other things that shape sexuality. Human sexuality is a combination of instinctual, social, and moral learning. Now, this is what we are referring to when we are learning about LGBTQ. When we say instinctual, something that is a factor of instinct is something that has been wired in you naturally, isn't it? Because you don't decide with your instincts, do you? If I may ask, did God teach Adam or Eve how to have sex? Did he? Do you think he did? So no matter what these singers today are telling us, that if you go to marriage and you've not done some of these things, sometimes we even worry our youths, and they end up messing up, trying to be pros before they even get into marriage. I'm telling you, our youths, you'll be fine. Don't decide the success of your marriage because of what these secular singers are telling our youths. It is wrong. You mean all people who have had successful marriages, they first had this sexual education, and I don't know if I want to call it sexual education, but what I'm trying to refer to is the influx of the singers. You know these singers and what they are teaching our youths. Some of them, actually, if you are to send your girl to a singer, be sure that singer has a spiritual connotation to her, because whatever they are going to tell the girl is sometimes it's just trash. Instinct is something natural. Social and moral learning, what the child learns from home, will shape their understanding of sexuality. Today we buy clothes. You buy clothes for the children. He's very young, maybe a boy or a girl. And for the boy, you buy some things. Or for the girl, you buy some shorts. And you think they are so young to understand. I can tell you that at a very young age, the kids are learning the difference between them and the other opposite sex based on how they look and dress. So you giving the girl a trouser, you are not helping build the kid's sexuality, because she is a girl and you are buying for her a trouser. What are you shaping in her? Because girls put on dresses and skirts. Shouldn't it be fine for a boy to put on skirts? Why isn't it fine? If you find a parent and they decide to buy some skirts for their boy, should it be fine? What makes it fine for the girl to put on the trousers then? You see? So at a very young age, the kids are learning how different they are. That's why they start to touch their genitals. They are curious. They are seeing that their friend's genitalia is different from theirs. So they are curious. They are curious. So socially, what we do shapes the kids' understanding of their sexuality. Sexuality has to do with the deeper understanding and appreciation of that which is sexual as part of the total being, not something isolated and self-centered. Our sexuality is a part of us. It is not something that is secondary to us. Sometimes we treat it like it is something secondary. How do we do it? We don't talk about it. We don't. It is like forbidden knowledge. Huh? I spend a very big time with kids and youths. They are kids who reach their time for menstruation and they have never been told by mom or dad that they are growing and changes are happening to them. Why? Because the parents, maybe they don't like to talk about it. And yet it is your role as a parent to be on the lookout to prepare your child for the changes that they are going through. Sensuality is the use of sex as an arousal, attention-getting device. There is an image. I think I don't have it here. But there was a phone that came. It was by Techno. It was called S3X. How many of you saw that phone? Techno brought a phone. It was Techno. Was it come on? Techno come on S3X. What is that? Common sex. Society uses sex for advertisement. The use of women in adverts also has their own history. There was a time when women were not being used in adverts, but look closely right now. Very beautiful cars, very powerful machines, they are all associated with beautiful women. And there is a way they bring them when they are dressed in a skimpy way, kind of. Look at the way, you know these crazy buses that keep passing around by Airtel and MTN. What do they put there? Don't they put girls dancing there? Don't they? They bring some cheap bus, they put it there with very beautiful girls and they are dancing, dressed skimpily. What are they trying to do? To attract their attention. That is sensuality. And the Bible talks about sensuality. It is a sin. Because sensuality is targeted towards the arousal of senses to create attention. It is wrong. It is a sin. It is an attention-getting device. That is why there was a time when they were talking about sexual harassment. You remember? And there were placards that were saying, "My dressing is not an invitation." Do you remember that? But your dressing is a factor of sensuality. If your dressing is an attention-getting device, how can you say that your dressing is not an invitation? These are lies, really. Unless we don't understand how really the human body works. But it is wrong. We shall still have problems with people being raped because they were even being raped before they started putting on skimpy dresses, isn't it? So now you bring skimpy dresses, you are already creating a bigger problem. Now, what do we need to know before we begin to be sex educators at home? We need to know sexual physiology. In other words, what are the sexual development stages of children and what is normal for each stage? What is normal for each stage? Now, we need to start early. I will talk about briefly those sexual stages. We need to start early. What are the general principles for teaching sexuality? We need to start early. We need to start. Don't wait when the kid is 15 years, because then you think she would have fully developed boobs, and then boys will be trying to send a word, and then you will begin to talk about sexuality. No. We've had encounters with kids who were molested at 5 years. The kid is 7 years, but the kid was molested at 5, and the kid knows a whole lot of information that a 10-year-old does not know. The kid already knows how to play sex, and then this is the kid you are hiding information from, instead of helping them. So, start early. Start things like, ensonyi baziyita batya? Ensonyi baziyita batya mu Luzungu? Shyness. Shame. But I don't want to use the word shame. But at an early age, kids need to understand certain things. For example, caring for the boys' circumcision and girls' genital area in a gentle and straightforward way. We need to teach the kids how to wash their genitals. You know? How do you bathe? We tell them that, wash your genitals when they are bathing, so that they learn at an early age. Now, I will say this again. I don't advocate for circumcision in any single way. And I speak against it. Because it is wrong. It is very, very wrong. It is very wrong. I have very little time. So I'm rushing. I will not very much dwell onto the circumcision issue. But my plea to you, stop taking kids for circumcision, the boys. Don't take them for circumcision. It is wrong. It is wrong, and it does not help them in any way. Teach the kids how to wash themselves, not taking them for circumcision. I usually ask myself, and I usually ask the people I'm talking to, if this pinna gets dirty, isn't it? Huh? Do we cut it off? We wash it. So why do we circumcise the boys in the name of being clean? Is that good enough reason to throw away a whole part of your body just in the name of washing? Do you find that reason really fitting? Are you trying to say that you are the God and God was wrong to create that body part? So are you God now? People, these things are blasphemy. To me, it is blasphemy. It is blasphemy for you to think that you can go and mutilate a human's body part and throw it away like as if God had no purpose to put it there. Our master designer. It is wrong, please. Stop doing it. Mothers, don't do it. Dad, parents who are here, please stop and stop. When I get the time, I will talk about it. Communicate that God made the whole body lovely. There is no part of the body that is not lovely. Sometimes when the kids are growing up, they start to feel that maybe their boobs are growing so fast, they are so big, maybe they don't have a broad chest. I've seen boys who complain about not having a broad chest, and they feel inferior. Tell the kids, we need to teach the kids that they were made in a very lovely way. I love the song they sang here. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Help the babies to identify the different body parts. Help the babies to learn that this is my arm, this is my head, these are my breasts, this is my susu, if that is the word you use. Help them to learn and to understand, because it is important. Don't slap them. Don't slap their hands. Don't touch. It is so strange that you tell a kid not to touch a part that she sleeps with in her bed. Is it your part? Is it your part? These are the problems that come. By the way, if you tell a kid not to touch, and the kid grows up not learning how to even wash her genitalia, whose problem is it now? Who is the cause of the problem? You told them not to touch. Now, how can they be so careful in cleaning themselves? You created a problem. Let them touch themselves, but let them know when to touch. 2, share the responsibility. Both parents should talk to their children about sex. Let the mother talk and let the dad talk. Why is it important? Because it creates unity of direction. When kids hear something from the mother and they don't hear affirmation of the same from the dad, they start to doubt what the mother was telling them. So there needs to be affirmation by the dad and by the mother. What did dad say? That is why when you are talking to kids, if dad said something and it is wrong, you don't outrightly say, no, that is wrong. Isn't it? You find a way to deal with the issue so that it does not appear that entirely the other person is disrespected. You get the idea? You find a way to tell the truth in a way that still respects the other person. So both parents need to talk. And after a mother gives her response, she can say to her son, why don't you go talk to daddy about this? Because he can tell you how men feel. Boys, this is when the boys need their dads. You know, wet dreams. Let the dad talk about the wet dreams. When the boy comes asking questions, please be there to answer these questions. It is a very satisfying feeling to know that you can trust your parents with the hard questions that nobody wants to answer. Because why don't we want these children to get to a point where they ask other people? These are the questions that can lead to sexual abuse. When your kid starts to talk about, imagine you have a kid of 14 years. She doesn't trust you with these questions. She goes to a student, I'm sorry to say if there are teachers here, but she goes to a student teacher and she starts to ask these questions. What do you think is going to happen? This is a student teacher who dropped out of senior 4 and they joined the certificate. Now, the teacher is back teaching. What is the age difference between these two people? About 4 or 5 years. One is 18, another one is 14. And they are talking about sex education. Guess what is going to happen? Three, answer simply. Don't complicate your response. Don't overcomplicate your response. Try to stop and think what the child is asking. In other words, don't be so swift with your answering because you may not actually be answering the correct question. Sometimes kids ask us things when they have a background for their questions. For example, when a kid asks you that, is it true when you have sex with a condom you don't get pregnant? What are you going to say? It is true. But if you think closely, it is not entirely true. There is some truth to it. But it's not entirely. But there is also something else about this question. What is that? Yes. No, that is an allegation. That is an allegation that the kid wants to engage in sex. No.
You don't get pregnant.
It is true that the kid has got some information, but please don't say that the kid wants to get to have sex. No. Sometimes kids ask questions out of curiosity, plain curiosity. You know? So please, when you're answering, don't first allege that there is an action tied to the question. Because when you allege and you end up showing it to the child is going to stop asking these questions, thinking that every time she or he asks these questions, you create a connotation that they want to do something, and it is wrong. But the question can imply that the kid already has information and they want to fill in the gaps. You get the idea? But it is also possible that the kid has thought about the idea of having sex. It is also possible that the kid has thought about the idea. Right? It is also possible that the kid has been approached, if it is a girl, it is also possible that she has been approached by a girl, by a boy, who told her that we can do it with a condom and you won't get pregnant. Look at the idea. This means that when you're asking this question, try to open it up and you try to deepen the conversation so that you answer certain things that are implied by the what? By the question. Give a simple direct answer, but first give a simple direct answer to the question. Then you can delve deeper into the others. Don't bore the child with long, detailed explanations. They won't come back. In other words, don't lecture them. I was asking about something very simple. Instead of a yes or no, you started lecturing me. Did someone approach you? First tell me. You get the idea? In other words, there was a time when you could go to the police, and when you report, they end up telling you, remove your shoes. Remember that time? And that created a very bad reputation for the police. People started learning that when you go to the police, even when it is you who has been wronged, the police ends up telling you to remove your shoes. So we better not go to the what? And that is the same thing that is going to happen to you. Give an invitation for more questions by saying, does that explain it? Is that okay? Why? So that the kid can feel comfortable to ask more questions. Remember that by talking through these things, you can help the kid. You cannot help the kid if you don't know. Use teachable moments. Teachable moments are moments that come by and you can use them to teach the kid something about their sexuality. Maybe they're advertising a condom. Maybe there is a news bite and they have talked about a child who was raped. And sometimes they even elaborate the circumstances. They can say this child was taking it to the teacher's place and then she was raped. You get the idea. This is a moment to educate the child. Hey, have you heard? Don't always enter those teachers' houses when you are alone. It is not good. And if you can't stay outside, don't go. When they tell you to enter, don't enter. You get the idea. So use the teachable moments. Talk about babies when someone is having a baby. If possible, go and visit a mother who has just had a baby. Or if the mother is in the hospital, go visit her. So that the kid will learn that, when you are having babies, you go to the hospital. Slowly by slowly, as the kids are growing up, they are filling into the gaps of information that they have. You're answering questions. Slowly by slowly through the experiences. Counter the influence of media. Watch TV programs with small children. Why? So that you can be able to know when something bad is getting into their brains. There is a movie called Sausage Party. How many of you have seen Sausage Party? Sausage Party is all about sex. And all the cartoon characters there have been specially created to mimic body genitalia. Specifically, now you go to these kids, you give them money and they go to the library and then they borrow movies and then the kid borrows Sausage Party. What is the kid going to learn? You don't know, but the kid is being taught. So watch the programs with the children so that you can be able to tell that I think this is wrong and I need to watch out for this. If an unmarried couple is living together on television, we could point out that Jesus wants us to live happily forever in marriage. By the way, do you know that these soaps very much do not advocate for marriage? They don't. They usually show people getting married to the wrong partners and eventually they run away and they live with their soulmates happily ever after. Have you noticed? In other words, they are making it very ordinary and very normal for someone to run out of their marriage. Don't you wonder that today we have more divorces than we had in the last years, in those early years? And yet we are the generation that is more informed. Why? We have phones, we can Google, we can read, we have books, we are so educated. Why are we having more divorces than those early days? Sometimes it is the influence of what has gone into our minds. Today people don't want to fight for their marriages, not even for their relationships. They want, today's society looks at what they are getting, not what they are giving. Every person enters marriage looking for what they are taking away, only what they are taking away, not what they are giving. For how long can you be in a marriage when you're just taking away? People end up split. Why? Because every other party is focused on what they are getting out of the marriage, not on what they are bringing to the table. Even when you hear sometimes our youth, they're always talking about things like that. So, teach the children that God wants us to be married happily, not outside marriage. Initiate the discussion. When the kids are not bringing it up, you bring it up. If they never ask about sexuality, don't just ignore it. Bring it up and talk about it. Now, for toddlers, sex education is a long-term process. When the kids are growing 2 to 3 years, my time is almost up. 2 to 3 years, repetition is very important. Repetition is very, at this age, telling the child that boys do not put on skirts, that is already sex education. Telling a girl that never leave the house when you don't have your knickers on, that is also sex education. Because we don't want these kids to grow up in their 11 years and they are very fine moving without knickers. Because problems are going to arise out of that. We tell them, girls don't put on boys' clothes. It is wrong. At that early age, that is how they can understand. When girls are peeing, they squat down very well. That is sex education. Why? Because you've noticed that sometimes those young girls, they can try to also test. They say, for me, why should I really squat down? Let me also just pee when I'm standing. And then you come and you beat her very badly. You are beating her, but she has not understood why you are. First explain. Explain. Sometimes we think that these kids don't really understand, but they do. It's only that they have so little they can relate to you back, but they really understand. Toddlers believe anything they are told, so it is very important to be accurate in offering sex education, sex information. They will just take in everything. So be very, very careful. You should guard what goes into the kid's mind, because it is like a blank paper. Everything that is written there is there. If you let them to be told by the television, then you're going to have a problem. Convey concrete information by using drawings or pictures to show how God has given living creatures several different ways of creating new living things. You have chicken at home, you have animals at home. Use these as signs. Use these as teaching aids. A cow has a young calf. Why do you think they teach us these things at times in schools? What is the young of a cow? A calf. What is the young of a cat? It is a what? It's a kitten. Yes, this is sex education to the kids, because they are learning that there is a way that these living things give birth to new living things. They are learning. Now, I ask myself sometimes, what kind of stupidity, I'm sorry to use that word, but what kind of stupidity can get into a nation that they reach a level of allowing a gay couple to adopt a child? They have chosen they don't want to give birth. Why are we giving them children to adopt? Because They are against the natural law of reproduction. Because a man and a man do not give birth to a baby. So why are we giving them a baby now? To do what, really? You know? This is why it is good to buy these toys. Buy these toys. Buy babies for your gowns so that you nurture this thing in them. Introduce them to the world of plants, animals, insects. You know, you have animals at home. A cat is pregnant. This is an excellent opportunity to explain how God created life. You know, they are going to care for these young ones. Silently, they are learning that, oh, by the way, when the kids are growing up, the girls will know that me, I identify with mother. Have you noticed? Who tells them? They identify with mother. And then the boys will also identify with dad. Now, if you have chicken at home, you have cats, you have cows, they are slowly going to learn that, oh, so this one gives birth to young ones, and it takes good care of them. It is a mother instinct that these children are starting to learn at an early age. That, you know, when you give birth to kids, you need to take care of them. So when they start playing with their babies and then they are keeping them, you know, even if they are stones, please, when they bring their stones or sticks as babies, don't throw them, because those are their children. They are learning something. And this is what you want them to learn. So please don't. Name the sex organs accurately. You may not need to use the exact word, but if it is the word that they identify with for that particular body part, use that. Why? Because here in Africa, we tend to sometimes wrap words that, so that we don't feel like they are so obscene, isn't it? Isn't it? Yes, because we use the word susu, isn't it? But isn't there any other name to call what we call susu? There is. But if the kid knows that, yes, this word means this body part, use that one. It is fine. Is it okay? It is okay. Kids will ask these questions, where did I come from? Now let me ask you, if a kid asks, where did I come from, what will you answer them? Let me ask daddies here. Yes, elder. If a kid asks, where did I come from, what will you tell them? We gave birth to? Uh-huh. You mean everyone who goes to the hospital gives? Uh-huh.
And the result of getting married, because of the love between me and her mom, we were able to conceive her. Her mom was pregnant. After some time, she delivered.
Good, that's a very good answer. Why? Because elder is explaining the process of how you give birth to children, meaning the kid is picking up. We got married, meaning don't give birth until you are. And then because of the love we have, in other words, don't give birth to a child with the person who you don't love. And then mom was pregnant, and then we went to the hospital. But don't just say that, we just went to the hospital. How? You create more questions, eh? Because the kid is going to be like, There was a time I had a neighbor, a man with a stomach, a belly, eh? And one time a kid came and asked, but Dad, why don't you give birth? To the kid, everyone who has a big belly gives what? Now this dad is having a belly, a year, and there is no child. You get the idea? So you are confusing the kids by having a big belly. Huh? Please don't have a big belly if you are not going to. Yes.
But I wanted to follow up the explanation with a question. Because you may tell her that after telling her you conceived, and your mom was pregnant, some children are curious. They'll ask you, how did they get pregnant?
Yes. So how do you answer?
I want somebody to help.
Yes, and usually they ask, how did the baby enter mommy's belly? How did the baby enter mommy's belly? Uh-huh. Make sure you don't lie and you tell the truth.
The truth.
Whatever you tell us. Yes.
Okay, God has put human beings to be producing young human beings as they are married. So when me as your dad and your mom have come together after marriage, as we meet, normally God has put in us seeds.
They are going to ask you for how you planted the seed.
Yes. Yes. God has put in us seed,
Okay, let's listen.
which eventually become human beings.
Huh?
The details of that we will continue talking about.
Okay. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Yes, there is somebody behind who wants to answer.
But the Bible is very clear. That is Genesis chapter 4, verse 7. It speaks clearly that Adam knew Eve.
What is to know?
So I use what the Bible says.
And what is to
I
know?
knew, your
Because
I knew your mom and we gave birth
what
to
is
you.
to know? How do you know? You mean you don't
Eh,
know, ma'am?
The Bible is very clear.
Yes, teacher. God created the baby in mommy. That is a very good scapegoat. Because are you sure it is not God who created the baby in mommy? Eh? Yes. God created the baby in mommy. We prayed and God created the baby in. As they grow, by people, they will not be asking those questions. They will not. So you have not lied, but at least you have not told you've not explained the sexual act, isn't it? My time is up, my time is up. Actually, you can tell, you can explain to the children that, mommy has a sack inside. That sack is where God plants the what? The baby. So when she goes to the hospital, if they ask you where the baby passes, tell them she passes through the susu. It is no problem because when she's going to pee, how does she pee? Doesn't she know how she pees? She knows. So what are you hiding? You hide because you are an African. Okay. Why does mom have big breasts? Because they are preparing to give milk to the what? To the baby. When you grow, your breasts, they become big in preparation to feed the what? The baby. Can men and women have babies? Yes. Now, good sex education begins with attitude, and it depends on the accuracy of information and is learned in an atmosphere of, why do we say in an atmosphere of responsibility? Because we need to make sure that what the kids are learning is right. When the kids go online and they surf whatever they want, there is no responsibility taken for what the kids consume. Because Google as a search engine will just throw whatever comes to the kids. Google doesn't know that this is a kid. It will just throw everything. And then that is where your kid is going to learn about other things. Use the account of creation in Genesis, the story of Adam and Eve, Tell the children explicitly that God created male and female. Make it very clear. These days, even when we are talking about marriage, we say between a man and a what? A woman. Lest we create confusion. Let the kids learn how the plants have young ones. When we went to the village, I used to ask Mom, how does maize really happen to, how do we get maize? You know, we could have those other corns that didn't have seeds, isn't it? So I used to ask Mom, and she could explain faithfully. That is why God wants us to be close to nature, because there is so much we learn from nature. It teaches us, you know. Deal gently when the children are fondling their genitals, because they are curious sometimes. They are curious. Speak to them calmly. We've talked about this, I think. Why do we need to speak to them calmly? Because it does not help to bark at them. It does not help them to become good communicators, and does not foster obedience. You don't foster obedience by barking at a child. You don't. Don't tell negative stories about the sex organs. You know, stories of castration and what. No. Discourage playing doctor or nurse, where the preschoolers explore each other's bodies. When these kids start to grow up 8 years, please don't allow them to play mom and daddy. Why? They have seen that mom sleeps with daddy on the same. When they start to touch each other, when their bodies connect or rub against each other, they will start to feel a different way. And what happens? They will stick to that role even when they are to play any other time. And what will happen? They can open the gates to sexual exploration. So, we don't want them to do that. Tell the girls that you can never dress in front of the boys, no matter what age they are. Tell them when you're dressing in the bedroom, you know, this business of allowing the kids to come when they are naked and they play around, it is wrong. Even you, the parent, do not undress yourself in front of the child. Don't. You have pubic hairs, they don't. You are going to create, sometimes you even have your family planning books and whatever, and then you leave them there, and then they start to check them out. That's going to be bad. Teach the children roles. It is very important. By the way, it is very important. When the children are growing up, my time is up, people. My time is already up. When the children are growing up, help the children learn what the roles of a woman are in a home, because this is part of their responsibility as men and women. Let us make sure that if the child is growing up, they fully understand that being a woman means being a good home manager, isn't it? A woman who cannot manage her home, how can she manage her family? Can she really very much manage the family? So let's teach the children that waking up, helping mom with the work, helping the maid with work. Let's not leave these kids to just be there, watch TV when the maid is working because you paid the maid. No, you are not helping the kids. Help the kids to learn that it is my duty as a girl to wash, to clean around, to do this, to make sure that the beds are clean, to encourage the boys to bathe, you know? Because this is what a good manager of a home does, so that they can identify with their femininity instead of not knowing what they are supposed to do. If you find a girl who does not know what their role is and they are in their 25, that is a big problem, isn't it? Because these boys are going to start to complain. The girl cannot even clean the house. She cannot, lay the bed. These are things the girl should have learned in an early age. So let's help the kids, because sexuality, being feminine, means behaving like a woman, and so the males and the boys. However, let's not also groom the boys to be there and not to do anything. There's nothing that prevents a boy from learning how to cook. Huh? Let's teach the boys to do these things, because it doesn't stop them from being men. But they need to learn these things. But then you have this boy who's just there playing the entire day as the sisters are doing whatever, you know. Your boy is going to get married to somebody. I want to end here. There are very many things, but sometimes these kids participate in sex play to satisfy their curiosity. They learn about masturbation. Do you know that these kids learn about masturbation at this age? 6 to 10 years. They discover that when they are touched in a particular way, they feel good. So they start to do it, you know? They reason things and they talk about certain things with their friends. By the way, when the girls are growing up, at an early age, even as early as 7 years or 8 years, the boys have started already seeing the girls in a very different way. They see that this girl is more beautiful than the other one. Why is that? Because something is going on in their heads. They love this girl because of the hair. Feelings are already developing at an early age. So help them to shape their feelings right. We've talked about this, menstruation, talk about these things. Wet dreams to the boys, pubic hair and all those body changes. Let us talk about these things. Let us teach the kids how to bathe. Sometimes you get disappointed and you find someone, they're in their 25, they're a girl, they are fighting with their body odor. Really? Body odor. For the adolescents, these are things we've talked about. We need to tell the boys, by the way, tell the boys that they are not too young to get girls pregnant as early as 10, because they're still young and they can play around before they become fathers. But it is very important that you warn them. So warn these boys, especially for the teens. Help them understand what their feelings mean. Help the kids understand what their feelings mean. When the kids are growing, they develop an attachment. They develop the attraction to the opposite sex. And sometimes they don't know what to do with those feelings. As a parent, you may be so tough. I don't want to see you playing with the boys. I don't want to see you doing this. What were you doing there in the bush? You are very cute. This boy, this girl is attracted to the opposite sex and they don't know how to deal with the feelings. So what you do, explain to them what they are feeling, why it is important, why it is natural, and how they can deal with it. Tell them, I know you are growing up, and thank God you are growing up into a beautiful woman or a handsome boy. I want you to behave and be a good man. Good men do this and this and this. If they are attracted to a girl, they will go to their parents and ask for her hand in marriage and tell them, do you want to marry right now? No. So keep those feelings in the safe place so that they know that what I am feeling has a purpose, but that purpose is not to be fulfilled right now. So the girls, help them to understand. Instead of telling them, I don't want to see you with boys. I don't want to see you with boys. What happens if the child grows and at 25 years now, the child doesn't want to talk to any girl about anything? Then you start saying, what is the problem with this man? What did you groom him to become? You get the idea? So, let us not create an environment. It's called helicopter parenting. Helicopter parenting, like, you feel that the kids are walking on eggshells. You don't want them to make a mistake, and so you are so tough on them. Don't, please. They need to explore the world by themselves, but in a safe environment. Tell the kids that when they touch, trouble is going to come. Tell the kids that not everyone has to touch you, unless it is a doctor who is checking you. Don't let the boys touch you. It is wrong, because what is going to happen? Don't just tell them, don't let a boy touch you. Why? you realize that when the kids get to their teens, they start to ask the why question. Have you encountered a kid who you tell something, don't do this, and they say why? Because of this, why? Because of this, and why? So as you're explaining something, bring your reasons very well and explain that when the boy touches you, you are going to feel good